introduce yourself to us and tell us what your organization's impact has been within the startup industry? I think I will start with Minshach.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Great. Thanks so much for the introduction. I'd like to also say a very big thank you to the organizers of Lagos Startup Week. I think it's just incredible what Olumide and his team keeps doing every year. It just gets bigger and better. At least we have something that we can hold on to in Nigeria that brings all the startups together. So I'm really happy and proud of what you guys have done so far. So my name is Minshach. I work with a company called Telesofta. We are a 20-year-old European software as a service company. Sorry, not software as a service, more like developers as a service company. I lead the Nigerian and potentially the African expansion as the CEO of Telesofta Nigeria. And in the last year and a half, which we've been in operation in Nigeria, our main work has been to, first of all, find Nigerian and African engineers and match them with global opportunities. And more recently, because we began to realize that there was a sort of a skills mismatch between African engineers and global engineers, particularly for those who haven't worked on the global scene before. And I call it a mismatch because it's not a deficiency per se. It's just a difference in what the market is requiring here. There's all the market requirements. So more recently, we started a new initiative called Get Global, which basically helps rescale African engineers and then match them with global work opportunity. So that's a summary of what we do and where we are right now.
Amazing. Sid?
Hello. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me on the panel. My name is Sud. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Incash. At Incash, we are bringing salary on demand for employees. What we believe is that as the world is progressing, everything is going on demand. Today, you can press a button and have taxi on demand, food on demand, hotels on demand. But the salary is still paid the old school way where you work every day and you get paid at the end of the month. We are taking that right of when you get paid from the employer and placing in the hands of employees, where employees can choose when they get paid. We call it salary on demand. It's a B2B2C product which works with your employers. We work with the employers, and for employers who care about employees, offer this facility to their employees. We've been in the market for about a year and a half. We're working with about 20 to 25 employers as of now. About 25,000 people have downloaded our apps, and currently we are disbursing a couple of $1,000 every month for salaries. Thank you.
Amazing. What about you? Praise.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is James. I am Chief Revenue Officer for Secure Intelligence Limited. At Secure Intelligence Limited, we run two sides of our business. One of them is SEAL Teams, which is an IT consulting practice. The second one is SEAL Academy, which is really very tailored to the discussion and conversations we're having here today, right? So SEAL Academy came up as an offshoot of our HR function because we realized that it was difficult to really get the kind of talent and competence that we needed to power our engineering capacity in-house, right? And we decided to build that capability. I will tell you for a fact that a lot of people that work in SEAL Academy, train from SEAL Academy and work in Secure Intelligence Limited, will match and give any CTO in Africa currently a good run for their money, right? Because we have a very rigorous training program that takes people from zero to Techie in about 6 months, and then we put them on another 6 months in-house, rigorous working with in-house projects and working with clients' projects, right? So they can match up to any talent all over the world, and which is very important right now in Africa, as we have a very young and growing population. We have about 12 million people entering the workforce every year, which presents opportunities for a lot of international and global companies to hire remotely from Africa. Thank you.
How about you, Bodri?
Hi, everyone. My name is Bodri. I'm the head of people at Okra. At Okra, our mission is to connect 1 billion Africans to the global economy, and we're doing that by digitizing financial services for Africa. Essentially, we are B2B software as a service. So for the businesses that we work with, They're ultimately trying to create a sort of seamless experience for their customers, whether they're a lending business or a wealth management business or a savings platform. We're essentially giving them the opportunity to, or creating an opportunity for their customers to link their bank accounts to their applications, so that these businesses can understand each customer's unique situation and then provide a sort of tailored, personalized payment experience or any sort of experience that they need, for them.
All right, thank you for introducing yourself to us and what you do. I'll pick it from you, Boduri. How do you think tech professionals can leverage remote work and global job opportunities, to expand their career, their prospects, and also be on a global scale?
That's a good question. I think fundamentally, if you're a tech professional, you should try and get a clear sense of where you're trying to go. Sort of you might even just look at sort of LinkedIn and, just look at those businesses that give you the opportunity to, that give you access to a wide sort of talent pool, where you can sort of, learn, based on whichever field that you're in. And also, I think fundamentally, it probably starts with understanding where you want to go, and then secondly, having a sense of the lifestyle you want to live as well, because that's what remote working actually allows you to do. It allows you to find a balance between work and life. So if you're someone who, for example, likes to go to the gym or goes to church at a certain time, you can find businesses that work in a time zone that kind of allows you to achieve that. And so that's kind of what I would say. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. James, what's your own point of view?
All right. Yeah, for remote working, I think there are a couple of sides to it, right? There's remote working locally, there's remote working internationally, right? If you want to work remote internationally, there are a lot of considerations around it. Having a clear understanding of the policies around the government policies, taxation, migration, and even employment rules and regulations for a lot of techies that want to, migrate through the capabilities they have in tech, right? A lot of companies hire remotely for software engineering roles and development roles, right? So if you match that talent pool, if you match the skill set, you probably get an opportunity to go there. And I know there's a lot of difference between the kind of competence we have, right, in Africa and what is required internationally. So you might be a senior engineer in Nigeria, but you will actually get a junior role in another country, probably in the US, right? But there are some advantages that, migration for work actually brings to whoever is doing it in terms of, you have an opportunity to earn higher, you earn in a different currency that trumps your local currency. I think one point is that it pays more if you even get, a remote international job and you run it from your local country where the currency difference makes you a big boy, basically, right? So I think those are kind of the nuances that entail the remote working. Yeah.
Please, let's have your view.
Yeah, it's okay. Right. So one of the things that I truly believe in is that talent is equally divided globally, but opportunities are not. Opportunities are divided by geographies. Remote working truly breaks those barriers, is one of the key things that I always believe. It has made a person sitting, say for example, and when I say geographies, it's not just about you are sitting in Nigeria and there is opportunity in US. It's even you're sitting in Lagos and the opportunities in Lagos where the person is living in Enugu or somewhere else. These barriers have been eliminated with remote working. So today in our team itself, we work out of we have a hybrid model. We have people from Enugu, we have people from Lagos obviously, we have people working out of India, we have people working out of US. Remote working has truly made for employees to express their talent, get jobs as per requirement globally and regionally, not just in where they live. They don't have to move. They can still sit in their house, they can still be where they're comfortable and still get jobs everywhere. So remote working for me has level the playing field of talent. It's no more that because you live in a particular place, can you only get an opportunity. You can get an opportunity anywhere.
Minshach?
Great, thanks. I think with what's going on in the country right now with the Naira, if anyone isn't looking for a global opportunity now, you probably are sleeping on a bicycle. I feel like if you're just looking for it now, you already found sleeping on the bicycle. So you need to wake up and get on the horse, right? So a couple of things. I'm just going to give you how-tos. I like to be a very practical person. So what are you going to do tomorrow? So the first is you need to understand where the demand is and scale up. So even within your technology, what are the tools that the global community is using now? What are the frameworks that they're using now, and quickly scale up? The second thing is you want to beef your CV and your LinkedIn. If you're going to be looking for remote opportunities, the first place you're going to want to look for you is on LinkedIn. You can't say, I'm an engineer, I'm really great, but I don't have a LinkedIn. You are joking. So get on LinkedIn, put everything there, everything you've worked on, every technology you know, every framework you know, put everything on your LinkedIn. If you can get people to recommend you, please do that. Very critical. Then your CV. Put everything you can do on your CV. One thing that's very important is please do not put things you do not know how to do on your CV. International organizations would typically have a technical interview where they will ask you questions about what you wrote on your CV. I remember a guy was in an interview with us and we asked him a question about something that he just snuck in somewhere and he had no idea that it was on his CV. So please don't do that. 2, 3, join communities. There are already existing communities that have people who work remotely and work globally. Joining those communities gives you access to those kinds of people for mentorship, for guidance, and also for inroad. Guess what happens with many companies that most global companies that recruit remotely? The first thing is when they have an open role, they tell the staff to recommend. So if you already know someone working there, your chances of getting in are so much higher than if you know no one. Finally, look for the opportunities. Look for companies that already have people working remotely. So go and do a little bit of research and then find an inroad into those companies. Stalk their pages, be on their websites, look at when they have opportunities open. Sometimes, some companies are very open to just you sending in your CVs, and there's nothing wrong with that. Say, I don't see any open role now, but just in case you have an open role sometime, this is my profile. This is why technology companies are always looking to find great talent. If you're a great talent, I found people that I hired and I didn't have work for. I'm like, this person is so good, he's on the market. I don't want someone to snatch him up, here, take, just wait. I have something that's gonna come on for you much quickly, right? So just send emails or send CVs to people and you don't know. One day when an opportunity is open, they're definitely gonna reach out to you. So like just 4 things you need to do. Take advantage of remote working opportunity now.
Amazing. I could almost say we can just get up now and start living because you gave the key points, on LinkedIn, your CV, build communities, find an inroad. But we also mentioned something spectacular. Know the lifestyle you want and the time zone that actually works for me. And this will make me ask you, Boduri, what are the considerations you look at? If you're putting yourself on a global market, you need to think of the time zone. You need to think of the culture shock, the nuances. You need to think of the language barriers. So what are the considerations to look at, and what do you think the challenges will be?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think in this day and age, there's sort of open access to information. I really like what he said about researching a lot. So in this day and age, you can kind of find out just the makeup of just about any company that exists today. And so I think for those businesses that you'd like to work with, perhaps look in, see where these employees from. But more so just research about the company itself, see what is being said about the company. You might even reach out to someone on the company to even just get a first level sense of like if this is a place that you'd like to work at, asking these questions directly, just around the, sort of nuances, trying to get, is this a fast-paced company? Sort of how do you do things? What's the cadence for meetings? Things like that. As far as like time zone differences, I think that would always kind of fall into just kind of your lifestyle, when you work best. If you're a morning person or afternoon, evening person, you can think about whether that business kind of falls within the time zone that aligns with that. If not, that's, and that's okay for you, all well and good. But I would say a key part is just kind of doing the research, speaking to people that perhaps work at the company, and then of course during the interview as well, using that as a way to gauge, if this is a company that you'd like to work with. How's the recruiter? Are they clear in their communication? As you go through the process, you're doing the same for all the interviewers as well. So I think along the way through research and going through the process, you're able to quickly understand whether that's the place that you'd like to work.
Amazing. So what are the challenges you think they need to look out for?
Yeah, I think the challenges, again, like there's no perfect company. I think the challenges that you're likely to experience are, kind of whether it's more so just how you might feel when you join the company, and perhaps you might find that you don't really, you kind of need to be, you need to ask more questions, to understand more about the people that work there. Because again, interviews, people can show you certain things, certain sides of themselves. So I would say a big thing is probably just kind of trying to probe a bit more. You'll have a manager, you might ask for a buddy, who can give you more insights into the people at the company. And so I would say just kind of, again, lean on resources. There's resources out there. And as well as the business that you work with, there'll always be resources. And if they're not giving that to you, then ask for them.
Okay, it stands for me to ask questions, and
Yeah.
do a lot of your own research. That will make me ask you, Praise. Talking about inclusivity and diversity, I'm asking you because you have this as an offset of your HR business. So how has remote work been able to improve migration, ease for a lot of workers on a global scale?
Okay, so I think one of the benefits of remote working is the fact that you get to meet people from diverse backgrounds. And I think you should value the diversity of opinion and culture as well for any organization that wants to really go far and wants to reach new and emerging markets, right? A lot of organizations, they want to conquer the world, basically. And for you to do that, you need a lot of local context. And you get local context by interacting and relating with the people, right? So it helps when you have different cultural backgrounds, different kinds of people within your own workforce, like some for SEAL Academy and SEAL teams. We've hired people across sub-Saharan Africa, different kinds of people. We've met them a couple of times when we had, company retreats and stuff like that. And then, a colleague of mine last month was arguing with me about Ghanaian jollof rice and Nigerian jollof rice, right? And we were not able to convince him anyways, but I think it comes with, things like that are stuff that they give you a different perspective, a different background, and it's really vital in decision making. Because if you see things from only one point of view, right, it doesn't really help with the bigger picture because there's so many angles, so many factors to consider, right? So I think for inclusivity, for culture and diversity, it is one of the real benefits of remote working, right? Some challenges might also spring up in that regard for someone that probably has to migrate to work in a new place. The culture shifts might be massive. And the way to actually alleviate that is to have, community and support around people that you can actually relate to. I know this is one strategy that a lot of people I know that have left the country for like digital nomad visas and stuff like that, they always, try to keep in touch with their community, kind of even giving back to some of their counterparts within their local countries, sharing their experiences, and just being in that space where you can actually talk to people that you relate with, right? Culturally, language-wise, and everything. Yeah.
So how do you maintain team cohesion with that? You've talked about inclusivity, you've talked about diversity. Now let's talk about the company's cultures and the team cohesion. How do you think they can ensure that?
Yeah, so that really comes to the culture of the company, right? And it starts from the top. So if you have leadership in a company where they value people's opinions, so we can have like a town hall, and everybody can have a say in a lot of things, decision making, even if your opinion would it be modified in some way, but everyone having a say, creating that atmosphere where there's nobody. I think the way we work these days, nobody is ma or sa in your workplace, right? You call everybody by name, and that kind of it lowers the gap in a bit, that makes people contribute, makes people feel more comfortable, right? So deliberacy around the kind of programs and policies within those workspaces really make it very easy to have a kind of global workforce with different backgrounds of people, different perspective, different culture and everything.
Thank you very, very much. You know, having an open door policy where everyone's opinion is welcome and you're able to actually leverage on that, I think that will go a long way. So let me ask you, if you would agree with me, the COVID-19 pandemic, accelerated remote work a lot. How do you think this has affected the tech industry?
I think remote working in some form always existed.
Okay.
But you're right, COVID-19 forced us all to look at it with a different eye since we had no other option. I think how it has changed the tech industry is there are many parameters to that. First is, as I said earlier as well, access to talent. How much access to talent do we actually have? Earlier, because we could only have people working in our office who were called employees. Now, since that is accepted, that anybody working from anywhere is your employee, access to talent has become global. That's number one. From the employer point of view, the tech industry point of view. The second is, what do you call an office? Right? Earlier, it has led to a huge amount of cost savings for the tech industry. First, the number of seats that you take now in a physical office has reduced. So generally overall, the tech industry now has three phases of what they call offices. One is your physical offices. One is what you call digital offices, which are in people's homes. And the third is a lot of co-working spaces that have come. The third that has happened is that employees mostly have a lot more flexibility with remote work. So most of the tech employees, if you talk today, not having an option to have a hybrid working culture is almost not you've lost him if you don't give him that option almost in the tech industry. So the tech industry has really evolved since COVID-19, and I think since a bit of remote was always there in tech, I think everybody will agree that tech always had a bit of remote. So we were probably the fastest to adapt to it and probably the least affected, and that's why a lot of layoffs are now because tech really benefited from this as well. So I think overall we make the most of it, and we have really evolved in terms of how we recruit people now in the tech industry.
Amazing. That's good. Let's move away from remote work and go to migration experience. Minshach, let me ask you, for someone that has worked, on a global scale, let's focus on the experience. What are the common experiences you've had, for migration experience with techies?
What do you mean migration experience?
Yes, like the common challenges they've faced working on a global scale. You're in Nigeria and you're working for somebody in Egypt, in Qatar. How have you been able to manage these orders?
Oh, okay, great. So for us, the way we work is a bit different. So we don't have like lone remote workers in different places. We have we like to hire in groups because we're very key on culture. We're very key on team building. Like we literally have a weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually team building budget. So while you might not necessarily be in the same physical, state with people on your particular team, but you're in the same location or state with people in the organization. So we prioritize having people to have team building activities, have leisure activities that we do both as a company and also as a team. So, but for people who don't have that scenario, a couple of things are very important to do. One is, the tendency for you is to isolate yourself because you're probably this lone remote worker and everybody else is probably at the HQ somewhere. Don't do that. You'll be doing yourself a huge disservice. Get involved and engage in as many virtual things as possible. Many companies are beginning to think about it even more critically about how can they build teams globally with people not living or working in the same location. And so they're coming up with very interesting virtual opportunities or virtual activities, whether it's a virtual gaming tournament or virtual team building, watching a movie together. Don't exclude yourself. Now, for many global companies, unlike Nigerian companies that make a lot of things compulsory, a lot of things are not going to be compulsory, especially when they're not exactly about your work, right? So like, hey, this is happening. You could be a part of it or not be a part of it. Many people were just like, nah, this is on that time I can work on my side hustle and make some extra money. Nobody got time for playing games with other people, right? But the problem is then is, at some point, the team is going to say, who do we enjoy working with and who do we not enjoy working with? And typically, the guy that nobody ever talks to apart from when they write code is most likely the guy that's going to leave the team. So you don't want to be that guy or girl, right? So you want to engage as much as possible, be a part of the much global community within the organization. Many people are on Slack, most organizations are on Slack, and then on the Slack, you would definitely have a random channel, right, where people just write rubbish. You find a nice meme, you put it up there. Don't overlook that channel. Go there, laugh at somebody's joke, put up your own joke, reply to the joke, right? And then lastly, which is one of the things I found really interesting, is one of the reasons why they most likely recruited you all the way from Nigeria is also because they want cultural diversity. You be deliberate about bringing that cultural diversity. So for example, in my company, everybody goes on a first name base. But I like to call my colleagues chief, chairman, boss. And then it started a conversation. So someone messaged me and said, hey, Minshach. I'm like, hey, chief. Like, so I remember one of my colleagues said, excuse me, I'm not very comfortable whenever I message you and you say chief. I said, okay, let me give you a little bit of a background to why I call you chief. And then I told him, and like, okay, that can be a team bonding between me and you. So whenever he messages me and I says, hey boss, I say, hey chief, right? But what have I done? I've sort of made a mark, right? And with that mark, I'm more part of the team. I've brought the Nigerian culture and I've added it to a European company, and that's what they really want. So for me is be a part, integrate, be involved, be responsive, and don't just be aloof and say, I'm just this one guy here and nobody really cares. Make yourself matter.
Thank you, Minshach. I will take the question back to Sud here. What about you have a tech professional moving from Nigeria to, let's say, the United States. What do you think are the hurdles is going to come across, and how can organizations and government bodies address this?
This into two parts. One is the professional challenges that you face, and one is the social challenges. Let's start with social challenges, which are easy: making new friends, getting used to the culture, adjusting to the rules and regulation of a place. There are already organizations that help in that. One of the organizations when I moved here was Internations. This is like a group of expats, and you can use them to make new friends. On the other side is professional challenges. Now, the professional challenges are more deep. I would highly recommend that before you move to any place, do a lot of research, a lot of research. So many things that can be easily done. If you don't do research, you can get stuck. You said United States. I would take an example of Canada. So I don't know if many people know, but a lot of your degrees that you may have are not valid in Canada to get jobs. So, and there are some bridge courses that have to be done for them to be valid. So if you do your research well, before going there, you already are prepared with those exams and other things, so you don't have to go live there and do some menial jobs before you actually get a job. Overall, professional challenges would be what people face. The second biggest challenge is what Vesti is trying to solve, is about how people migrate, how easy it is for them to migrate, whether it is the paperwork, legal. And the second thing is financial inclusion for these people when they reach. You know, when you reach to a new country, it's not easy to open bank accounts, get cards, access to facilities like credit, access to insurance. So having organizations like Vesti or others working in the same space, you can easily imbibe yourself into the new place. So overall, two things, but I would recommend do a lot of research of who can help you before you move. Don't be in a rush. Go do your research and you'll be okay.
Fine. Do a lot of research on people who can help you, and I think find organizations that can actually help you right there when you get there and you get to find them. I would bring my question to Praise now. How do you think tech professionals can strike a balance between the demands of a global work environment and being in their own local space?
Okay, so for that, still building on what we've been talking about before, demands of the global workspace might actually be quite different because of a lot of nuances like, culture, work times, work hours, and a lot of things that come up in the workplace. We might be used to doing a lot of hours in Nigeria or in Africa. You know, you work and then you get paid wages at the end of the month. And you see that that's kind of different where you actually bill on a hourly basis when you move to a new country like the US, right? So those changes are a lot of things that really should move, I think whoever wants to migrate to kind of connect with the communities where they want to go to, have someone or some people, a kind of community that can help you get up to speed quickly because of the culture shift, right? You need to do a lot of research, but you also need to have people that can make the learning process a little bit faster for you, right? Because you need to consider things like taxation, employee benefits, pensions, and all of stuff like that. And even just the lifestyle, you know, there might be some rules and regulation, even outside of work, that you do not know you're violating because you don't have the knowledge, right? There are even some rules and regulations, even in your local country, that you're probably not aware of because you don't have access to those kind of information. So these are the things that people need to research about. Something also very vital is recognizing the need for competencies. So the skills that we have in our own local countries, you need to look at how to make sure that you are globally certified, right? And that's one of the things that we do at SIL Academy. We try to make sure that we combine competence with certifications, because certifications are just like a check mark that just say, okay, yes, you're recognized as someone in this space, but then competency is really what separates you from the pack, right? Certifications might get you through the door, but competency is what keeps you in the room where you actually be able to do what is required of you. You know, you might have a very beautiful profile, LinkedIn and everywhere. You know how to sweet talk yourself during interviews. But when it comes down to actually doing the work, you know, what do you have to offer? What do you bring to the table? So that is what we really focus on at SIL Academy. We help people to make sure that they're up to global standards, right? You're able to match up with anybody from whatever country, whatever their skin color, whatever their background is, right? And that's what we do. That's what we keep continuing to do. And one of the challenges that might also arise, because everyone wants to get access to better opportunities. Everyone wants to leave the country. They want to go to the US or to the UK, right? And that becomes a headache for employers too, because their talent pipeline keeps depleting. They keep losing their senior engineers, right? And that's one of the programs we also take control of. We're trying to populate that pipeline, make sure that, you know, the pipeline is continuously there as we lose some of our people to the Western world. We also have new intakes that are coming in to fill up those vacancies, those spots that are left behind.
Nice. But Bodri, I have something on my mind. How do you think, for tech professionals, it comes to fair treatment of each and everyone? How do you think organizations can actually imbibe a fair treatment culture in each of those organizations, either locally or internationally?
Yeah, no, I think, thank you. I think when it comes to fair treatment, again, one has to be very conscious about the type of company they're trying to build the culture. The thing about remote work, for example, is that you want to ensure that everyone has the same level of access to information. You don't want a situation where, you know, folks perhaps in a certain country have, you know, more access, because perhaps there's an office in there. So I think the first thing is just kind of really trying to understand what type of organization. So if you're a remote first business, then let's have a level playing field, or even just a fully remote business, have a level playing field. And so what that means is having, whether it's information stored on Notion or any other sort of like tool, having one where everyone has access to. I think the second thing is setting expectations in onboarding. As you onboard folks, from many different countries, there's a need to, again, have a sense for what's just, what's right. And so whether it's kind of looking at cases around, sort of discrimination, like going through some cases around that to ensure that everyone understands kind of how that takes place and how to prevent that from happening, and even how to report that if that happens. I think that's always another way. And then the last way I'll just mention is just more so again, speaking to the employees. So not just having the channels for them to report cases, but running surveys to gauge just how people feel about the company and if they feel as though they're fairly treated.
Okay, so let's fairly treatment. How do you not ensure their well-being and avoid burnout for remote workers?
Yeah, good question. So I think arming them with resources, as far as burnout, arming them with resources, whether that be sort of access to sort of like a therapist that they can kind of speak to understand, why do you work all the time? Why don't you switch off? So arming them with resources, but I think the manager plays a huge role in that in terms of managing each person's workload and ensuring that one, you don't have someone on the team that has way more work. Sort of encouraging, team playing on the team in a way where if you finish your sprint, perhaps you could help someone else on the team to balance the workload. I think also the issue on time off. Managers should lead by example, should take time off and exemplify that so that everyone knows that, hey, listen, if you take time off, don't feel any sort of guilt, it's okay. And again, because that inspires creativity and allows them to balance their lives ultimately. So I would say those are the things that come to mind.
Minshach, what do you think?
I think like the first problem with burnout for Nigerian engineers is not many times is not the company. Most foreign companies understand work-life balance, most that at least I've engaged with. They know that when you're on vacation, nobody should message you. I remember when I started working at Telesofta, when someone is on vacation, they put up a palm tree icon next to their status. So I didn't know what it was. So I needed something pretty urgently, like we always do in Nigeria. And I messaged someone who was supposed to get it for me. I didn't know he was on vacation. And then he messaged and replied me. A few minutes later, his team lead messaged me and said, this person is on vacation. Please do not message them when they're on vacation. And it was very shocking for me. But now, so the company values vacation and values time off. But Nigerian engineers don't. And the average Nigerian engineer is working 4 jobs at the same time, especially if they are working remotely. They are working full-time on one, they are working part-time on 2 startups, and then they probably have a consultancy gig that they do once in a while. So the onus to work-life balance, I can see a couple of engineers giggling. The onus to work-life balance is on the engineer. It's not on the company. But many times when my engineers take time off, I know they're sort of troubleshooting on some other project that they're working on, and they need the whole day to do that. So they're really not taking time off. So I think for balance, the individual needs to understand the value of balance and the value of not burning out. They need to have a routine that says, this is when I start, this is when I stop, and this is when I stop everything. So no matter what it is, except it's literally major emergency, I am not going to pick up my laptop. I'm not going to respond on Slack. In fact, many times, if you work in a global company, even if someone is messaging you after work hours, they would have the courtesy to say, you don't have to respond. Because sometimes it's just that the person just remembers, oh, I was supposed to ask you this, but it's past, so, hey, it's like a bookmark. I'm just saying this here, you don't have to respond, we can talk about it tomorrow when it's work time. But the individual needs to prioritize their mental health and prioritize the balance.
Prioritizing their mental health and balance. But how do you think organizations can actually imbibe this to ensure the well-being of these engineers, like tech professionals globally?
Okay, so I'm just going to talk in general because I feel like a lot of global companies already have this, so maybe local companies can also learn. Okay. So one is, and he said a couple of things. One is have a resumption time and a closing time, even though people are not necessarily clocking in, right? But you just know that nobody is sending you an email at 7 a.m. Nigerian founders, because we're so passionate, we know how to do that thing a lot. It's 3 a.m., you're emailing someone. Why? Sunday afternoon during service, you are sending Slack messages, but why? Right? Like, in my company, I remember we onboarded a bunch of interns recently, and we have this guy that's overzealous and just so on fire all the time. And then on Sunday afternoon, he's sending WhatsApp messages or Slack messages on the group, and we had to tell him, don't send messages on the group during weekends. We have weekends here, and we like to spend our weekends with our families. Whether or not I have to reply, once I see it, like now I'm thinking about work. Guess what? You just messed up my afternoon. Can you not mess up my afternoon? Right? So don't message people on weekends. Don't message people on public holidays. Don't message people in the middle of the night. Please, right? Except it's absolutely critical. 1. 2, go prioritize taking time off. Prioritize it. Now, how do you know don't just say, we have 20 days leave time for you. No, prioritize it. Talk to it. When you say, oh, look, your productivity is dropping, do you want to take time off? In fact, sometimes you might have to mandate taking time off. You say, look, I think you're getting burned out. And this is one thing we do, and I think other companies can do. We have one-on-ones. Every team lead must have at least bi-weekly one-on-ones with every member of their team. That way you know how they're doing, you know where they're... And the one-on-ones are not like KPIs checking. How many bugs did you have last week? This number is increasing. I don't like this. No. Your one-on-ones are more like therapy sessions. It's like most times you, as the sort of the subordinate, create the agenda for what you want to talk about. So where are you having challenges? Where are you having blockers? Do you need advice in anything in general, right? And so your team lead can quickly sense if you're getting a burnout, if you're on something and it's becoming difficult for you to overcome, if you need help from somebody else, or if you need to go and take time off. And sometimes, like, I'm insisting that you take time off. So now, tomorrow, turn off. I don't want to see a message from you tomorrow. I don't want to see an email from you tomorrow. Take time off, right? So prioritize it. And then, like he said, lead by example, right? So if you're telling people to take time off, take time off. I suck at this, and I'm going to have to learn it. So I'm going to take my own advice. Take time off. So this year, I've decided, like, in 4 years, I haven't taken time off that I haven't been working. But I'm going to travel somewhere that there is no network, right? So that I'm forced to take time off. But do prioritize it and lead by example. I think this will help.
Leading by example, prioritizing, and organization having strict rules on well-being, having one-on-one. Okay, you've shared amazing insights, everyone. But I would love to ask, for tech professionals globally, remotely, locally, what are the trends you look out for in the coming years as remote work appreciates, and also tech professionals also go on a global scale? What are the trends you look out for, please?
Okay, so for me I strongly believe that Africa is the now and the future. We have a growing... Hello? Okay, great. So I think Africa is the now and the future. We have a growing workforce. We have a lot of young people that are going to be latching on to technology. We have the opportunities locally are not as much as the people that we have. And I genuinely think that the future will be the African workforce. So to position for this, I'm going to talk from the talent perspective. I'm going to talk from the company perspective. And then finally, I'm going to talk about what we're doing about this. So from a talent perspective, you need to start seeing yourself as a global citizen and not just as a Nigerian local person. And what does this mean? It means that you need to be open to learning, not just on your field, but also about humans and people, and how people live and how people relate and how people talk. Engineers can be sort of antisocial, but try not to be in that mold and understand people and be able to engage with people from different cultures at different times. From a company perspective, understanding that the world is coming here, and if you don't know this now, like it's super clear, you need to be globally competitive. I think that Nigerian companies need to stop crying wolf and crying, they're taking all our talents. Why are all the talents going, right? Like if you're a guy and you have a girlfriend and she breaks up with you, every new girlfriend breaks up with you every month, then the problem is not the girlfriends, it's you, right? So why are your talent all leaving? I think you need to find that out and figure out how to fix that, right? So again, the companies need to understand they're playing in a global market now, and so you need to be globally competitive. Why you might not necessarily be able to compete on pricing, because again, they're earning in Forex, you're earning in Naira, they're having global clients that are able to pay the big dollars, and you're still here. You can compete on other things like culture, like prioritizing people, like caring deeply about the people that work with you. If your place is an incredible place to work, even if you're not paying as much as somebody else is paying, it's going to be very difficult for people to leave you. And even if they go, many times staff members that enjoy working in a certain place will still offer their services to you even after they left, because they sort of feel attached and feel connected to your company as a community and not just as a workplace. For us, one of the key things that we're doing with I talked about the Get Global initiative that we're working on, and we're already sort of kickstarted. We want to transition from having Nigerians having to relocate. And I don't have a problem with relocation, I don't have a problem with immigration. I think it's cool. I think almost all my friends have jackpot, and anyone who hasn't jackpot yet is already planning it. I think I'm the only one who doesn't have jackpot plans anytime soon. But I think that while it's good to relocate if you can, but I think there's a much bigger and so much sweeter opportunity living in Nigeria and earning money in dollars or euros. It's like the dream, right? Our tax systems are much less, which means that, and then the money now exchanges for so much more. I think that there is so much opportunity just being there. So one of the key things that we're doing is we first is upskilling local talent. The second thing is we're helping companies open offshore teams in Nigeria and potentially all of Africa. And why this is also critical and why this is beautiful is while the people here are working remotely, but they're also part of a local community. So they're working, so we can do team bonding initiatives together. You have people that you're working together that you can see physically. Again, why you don't have to come to the office every day, you still have activities that bring everyone together. Okay. So for me, I think Africa is the future and the now. I think that more and more international organizations are going to be looking to recruit from here. I think that local talent can position themselves effectively by knowing what is in demand and learning it. And I think that organizations need to quickly understand that they're playing on a global scene and begin to be globally competitive.
Awesome. I think you have answered the trends to look out for. I'm going to leave Boduri, James, and Sue to tell us how organizations can actually adapt to these trends, either as individuals or as an organization.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I think, like he said, remote life is really here to stay. If you look at where the world was 100 years ago, it was all about factory working, mass production. How do you ultimately prescribe what needs to get done in terms of the workflow so that people can just follow the routine and produce XYZ. We live in a completely different world now. Consumer needs are ever changing. They're diverse. There's a lot of competition. Communication has changed, and so recognizing the fact that employees who are creative and take strong ownership can make decisions, in other words, can handle autonomy, are the type of employees that you want. So recognizing ultimately that the landscape has changed in that way, and I think just kind of really aligning your processes and culture and tools to fit that.
Recognizing the change and aligning with the change even as they come. James, what do you think?
Okay, so they've said a lot about what the trends are and what organizations and individuals can do to embrace and adapt to this, right? We're in the fourth industrial revolution where a lot of emerging technologies are taking over the way we work and what we do. So there's more emphasis on what we actually do and also opposed to where we work, right? I've seen a couple of articles where they say the future of work is remote. Some argue that the future of work is really hybrid, but that depends on the kind of business that you're in, right? So if it's an IT company, if it's a product development company, you really need the most of your workforce to work, remote. You don't necessarily have any need for a physical office, except that investment has already been made. I know a lot of companies shifted to hybrid work, because of the pandemic in 2019, 2020. But as soon as everything started to stabilize, they started to enforce a kind of more hybrid and more on-site policy. But that might not really be sustainable in the long run. A lot of talents are looking for global opportunities because of the lifestyle, culture, or currency difference and all of that, right? Which is good. Everyone should always aim for greener grass. Cool, right? So what organizations can really do is to make sure that they've taken care of their pipeline, like I always say, right? And that's what Hill Academy is really positioning to do, right? So people who are going to migrate, there's nothing you can do to stop them. The government cannot stop people from migrating even if they come up with policy upon policy, right? People will still get out of the country for whatever reason, right? But what they can do is to make sure that the talent that we have, do not deplete. We have a very young population in Africa. We have the numbers advantage over a lot of countries that, have an older population. You recognize that in big tech right now, we have Indians, no swipe to my brain, but we have Indians that are really taking over everything right now. And we, in the next couple of years, we should be in that position if we position ourselves well. We need a lot more players in the industry, in the educational industry, to really take charge of this mantle and drive it to excellence, basically, right? We have a lot of providers that are actually contributing to that, like AWS in Africa, which we are partners with, right? And they kind of make sure that everyone has the same kind of quality in terms of talent and competence that will make you to be highly competitive on a global stage, right? And that's for the talent side. But for the company side, for the players in the industry, you need to make sure that you connect to the pipeline where you can always easily, seamlessly fill up the gaps within the organizations. You lose your senior developer, you can have, you've already been training someone that's junior or middle to take over that position very effectively with a little time to value in the company, right? Because you're working with talent, you're working with a pipeline that continues to churn, very valuable talent for your organizations. So I think those are the trends that we should see, that we should expect, because the world is changing and we have to adapt to these changes too.
Thank you very much, Sud. What's your point of view?
I think from the employer point of view, the biggest adaptation that I expect and I'm already seeing is on employee wellness programs.
Okay.
This is one thing that I think back in the day, I've been here for 3 decades in Nigeria. I know this country very well. So, and I think there was never really that focus except for the multinationals, on employee wellness. With these opportunities of remote work that is there, people leave if they're not happy. So There will be, one of the key adaptation will be on employee wellness programs, how to make sure the person who's working for you is motivated, happy, and productive. So a lot of productivity tools, a lot of employee wellness programs would come into play from the employer point of view. That is the key thing I think it will come.
Thank you all so much for sharing. I think we can give them a round of applause. As they've shared amazing insights, experiences, and I believe everyone has taken a lesson or two, either if you're positioning globally or you want to work either locally or you want to migrate from point A to point B. You can learn the culture shock, the nuances, what to look out for, how to research. And with this, we've come to the end of this very, very amazing session. A round of applause for our speakers once again. Thank you all so much. I'm still Opadoyin Olubunmi, Senior Migration and Business Analyst at Vesti. Think migration, think Vesti. Thank you all very much.